Deborah Addo is the CEO of Inova Loudoun Hospital. Becker's Hospital Review recently named her one of the 50 great American leaders in healthcare to know. And Loudoun Business Journal recently recognized her as one of 5 women who mean business. Prior, she served as CEO of Inova Mount Vernon for 3 years. Before joining Inova in 2014, she served as a COO and Senior Vice President of Meritus Health at Washington Health System, a 300-bed hospital that was voted as one of the top 100 hospitals in the country. So in addition to her J job, because this is a real estate prayer breakfast, she is currently overseeing a $300 million master plan expansion of facility and services. This new expansion is 7 stories, 366,000 square feet at a cool $300 million. For you guys out there, I did the math, it's about $850 a foot, okay? She earned her bachelor degree from Georgetown University and her master's degree in public health from Walden University. In her free time with her husband, Paul, she loves to spend her time traveling. They travel a lot to the Caribbean. She loves diving and swimming. She's also a Porsche enthusiast, so I'm sure she keeps to the maximum allowable speed limit of 55 when she's in first or second gear. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming, without much ado, Deborah Addo.
So I think I'm going to use this mic, but thank you, Derek. Good morning, good morning. So, I'm happy to be here because I almost wasn't. Several years ago, early in the morning, driving down Interstate 81, me and a few people on the road, making my way in. Unfortunately, an 18-wheeler swerved over into my lane. I had no place to go, so I went over the side of a mountain on 81. Now, I don't know if you all do this, but there's something in me where I do this counting thing. You know, when I'm walking up steps, I count how many steps. You know, when I'm in church, how many rows, how many seats. I don't know why I do that, but in case you are wondering, there are 50 tables in here today. It's just something I do. So as I was going over the side of the mountain, I was counting as the car rolled over. Once, twice, 3 times, I'm counting. And finally, it comes to rest. I'm disoriented. I don't exactly know where I am, but I remember someone grabbing my hand and saying, "Honey, I'm going to hold your hand until help gets here." I never saw the person's face. I just heard the voice, and I felt my hand being held. So the ambulance comes, the helicopter comes, they cut me out of the car. They're having conversations, and you know, when EMS gets there, they ask you questions because they kind of want to know your orientation. So they ask, "What's your name?" Okay, so I think I got that right. But the funny thing is, you don't know because you don't know that you don't know. So I told him my name. He's asked me what year it was. He asked me who was the president, and so by then I'm feeling like I think I know that I'm okay, maybe. And so I started to tell a joke like maybe Abraham Lincoln, but then I thought this might not be the time for joking. And so I told him, you know, who the president was. And then this is something that EMS does ask you many times after a major accident. He asked me, by any chance, did you lose control of your bladder or bowels? And I thought, dude, I thought I was gonna die. I was not going out with poop in my pants. No, I did not lose control of my bowels. Let's get on with this. So they pack me up, I'm in the ambulance, and then he says, I looked at him and I said, "Before we go, I would like to thank the person who held my hand and waited for me until you got here." And he looked at me, and he's probably thinking, well, maybe she's been impacted by the accident, because the way that he looked at me let me know that we were not computing. So he said, there was no one here. We found you. You were alone. And I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, I was not alone. Someone said to me, help is on the way. I will hold your hand until they get here. So I ended up with a fractured back, a long recovery, but the day before, and I was driving a SUV, and the day before, something told me to take my golf clubs out of the back seat. I always kept my golf clubs in the back seat. I don't know why something told me to take my golf clubs out of the back seat. Imagine going over the side of the mountain and rolling over a number of times with golf clubs banging your head, your back, and everything else. I would imagine the situation would have been much different if something hadn't told me to take my golf clubs out the night before. I'm happy to be here because I almost wasn't here. Several years ago, I went in to see my OBGYN. It was on my lunch break. Remember, I work in healthcare, so we can do that. My schedule's busy. He said, look, I can work you in, I can squeeze you in, so this works. I went into his office. He does the examination, and then he says, oh my gosh. Now, usually that's not a good sign. And I don't think he really knew that he said it out loud. I think, he was thinking it and it just came out. So he told me to get dressed and he'd be back in. In the meantime, as I'm getting dressed, I heard him outside and he told his assistant, get Dr. Rosenshine on the line immediately. Now, I knew Dr. Rosenshine because I had recruited him to the organization. Dr. Rosenshine was a GYN oncologist, cancer. So he said, when Neil gets on the line, he says, Neil, I have a VIP here, and then he whispers my name. Now I'm listening to the whole conversation. So I don't know why he decided when he got to my name to whisper, but Neil, I've got a VIP here, you need to get in here and you need to see her today. So he comes back in the room and he says to me, look, I've called Dr. Rosenshine, he's gonna see you this evening. I'm going to send you over to imaging right now. They're waiting for you. You're going to have some tests done. And then I'm sending you over to the cancer center. And I've got everything lined up. And I stopped and I said, so David, let's talk. What are you telling me? And he said, with my experience, Deb, something's not right and it doesn't look good. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get you scheduled for a few things, and then we will talk. So they did that. They got me scheduled for everything. I ended up going into surgery. They removed a 7.5-pound tumor, and he says to me as we're waiting for results, he said, I just need you to know because you told me you want me to be straight with you. And I said, absolutely. I work here. I know what we do and how we do it. So tell me the news. And he said, it doesn't look good. He said, you don't know. And I said, something told me, right? I'm going to be okay. Something told me that, this doesn't compute, right? And he said, Deb, you don't know what I know. And I remember looking at him and saying, you're right. I don't know what you know. But I looked at him and I said, but you don't know who I know. I'm going to be okay. So and that was 2002, just so that you know. So when Derek first approached me about, the possibility of speaking here, real estate prayer breakfast, I started to think, real estate prayer breakfast, okay, I'm in healthcare. So tell me how all of this comes together. I'm a hospital CEO, hospital president, doesn't necessarily come together. But then I started thinking about it, and it started to make sense because I actually do know something about real estate. Does anybody remember this? Is there a visual that you can see this? Remember the Carlton, Carlton sheets, no down payment? Did this actually work for anybody? Do you know how much money I paid for this back in the day? And I still have it because I thought, just like everything else that recycles, maybe at some point in life this is going to work. I've got every CD, I've got it in here. So I know a little bit about real estate. But I'm assuming, though, when you think about real estate, in the audience we probably have buyers, sellers, we have brokers, we have builders. I'm imagining, for the most part, it's about relationship. When you've got a good person that's working with you, you know it. When you've got a not so great representative, you know it. In either way, you tell other people about it. And I've done quite a bit of buying and selling, and I've had the opportunity to tell other people about the great relationships and then about the not so great relationships. So a fun fact. When I graduated from college, I decided that I wanted to buy a house, and I knew that I didn't know anything about real estate. So just like I go around counting things, I thought, well, if I'm going to buy a house, I need to know something about it. So I grew up in D.C. There was a company, and I don't even know if they're still in existence, but they were called Shannon and Lux. And if there are any Shannon and Luxers in the house, I thought it was now dead, but if it's still alive, please let me know that. So Shannon and Lux in D.C., they also taught real estate. They had a school, and I think the school was in Laurel, Maryland, and you went to school, and I thought, well, I'm going to buy a house. I need to know all about it, so I'm going to go into real estate school. So I did. I went to school, I took the exam, I got my license, and I thought, now I'm qualified to buy a house. So I've got this license. I thought, well, maybe I should do some work because I just graduated. So I went and did some interviews, and I ended up getting employed by Long & Foster on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. That was a sweet gig. And so I got to see all of the listings first, and therefore I ended up buying a house on Capitol Hill. After I bought the house, I realized real estate was not for me. When you were 23, you have to be disciplined in real estate. Like, you've got to get up, you've got to follow things, and you need to be organized. And not that I'm not that, but at 23, I needed discipline. I needed somebody to say, this is what time you get to work, these are the 5 things you need to do. And so I decided real estate was not for me. There was a company called Metro Referrals, and so I thought, but it's about relationships, so I can still make some money and connect people to other people. And so that was my foray into real estate. If there are some builders in the house, we have a couple of things in common. There's an old song, I'm working on a building, it's a sure foundation, I'm holding up the blood-stained banner for my Lord, will I never get tired of working on the building? I'm going up to heaven to get my reward. So, as Derek said, I'm working on a building. It is 388,000 square feet, 7 stories. It will open on April the 25th next year. We are ready to go. There's a lot of work that's been done on that. Before I came to Loudoun, I also had the pleasure of opening up a new patient tower at Mount Vernon, the Mark and Brenda Moore Patient Tower. And before that, in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is still a highlight of my career, I actually built a brand new medical center in Hagerstown. So what have I learned about building humongous buildings? Here's what I've learned. The condition of your foundation dictates so much about the process. See, in Mount Vernon, the soil is clay and silty, and so you need to have pillars that are wider and deeper. In Loudoun, it's rocky. When we were negotiating with builders in Loudoun, we had to put in contingencies for time and for the cost to just get rid of the rock. So would they have to blast? Would they have to chip? So all of those contingencies were built in. So when you're negotiating with builders and you're looking at all of these things, we also had to recognize that in Loudoun, you could not build a basement in the hospital because of the way the foundation is. Now, in hospitals, it's important that you have what we call off-stage areas, right? The things that you want to do in front of patients and families, and the things that you don't want patients and families to know that you do, that it's magic, even though you must know that it happens, right? So, like, we have to move trash. We have to carry in supplies and food. We have to move dead bodies. It would not be a good idea to move dead bodies through the hospital lobby, and it just would not set the tone. So there usually is an off-stage area in hospitals where you transport things. We could not build a basement. So we're actually building a transport area on top of the building that will allow us to take things back and forth. This is going to be new. Now, everyone has told me this is going to be great. Deborah, trust us. This is going to be great. Game changer. April of next year, I will let you know if this has worked out the way that they said this is going to work out. So, relationships, all of them. When I went from place to place, whoever the builder was in my last place, of course, they would bid on the project for the next place because we had a good relationship. The project went well, so they wanted to bid on it. But here's something that I learned. It's not about the relationship with me that was important. It was what was the relationship with the foundation that they would be working with. If you didn't know how to work in clay, regardless of the relationship that you had with me, you were not going to be successful. If you didn't know how to chip or blast at rock, regardless of the relationship with me, you were not going to be successful. And so it was important for me that they had that kind of an experience. So what I learned was the condition of your foundation dictates so much about your process. The condition of your foundation dictates how much you're going to need to invest to get the desired outcome. The condition of your foundation dictates how much time you're going to need to invest, how long the process is going to take. It also dictates the skill set that's needed. And ultimately, the condition of your foundation is really going to dictate and determine the finished product. So let me tell you a little bit about the condition of my foundation. I'm Deborah Elizabeth Addo. I'm the daughter of Buell Elizabeth Addo and Jacob Addo. My mother was born in South Carolina. My father was born in Ghana. So I am absolutely the definition of African American. Okay? My parents met in D.C. My father came here to go to Howard University. My mother had moved here after graduation with some friends. So they met, they married, and produced me. My mom died just before I got the call from Inova to say, we want you to be our CEO. So she's never heard the title Deborah CEO. She's never heard the title Deborah President. She's actually never heard the title Reverend Deborah Addo. Now, she would be so proud, but she wouldn't be surprised. And let me tell you why she wouldn't be surprised. From the day that I was born, my mother would always tell me that, Deborah, there's a prophecy over your life. And as long as I'm faithful, you will want for nothing. As long as I'm faithful, you will want for nothing. Now, most kids, when they heard their bedtime stories, it ended with, and they lived happily ever after. My bedtime story was, and you will want for nothing. So when I applied for school and I really wanted to go to Georgetown University, and I was thinking, you know, am I going to get in? Am I going to be early decision, late decision, no decision? What's it going to be? She reminded me, you will want for nothing. When I wanted to buy my first house, I'm 23, I'm just graduated, I'm single, it's Capitol Hill, and by now you all know I have a real estate license, you know. Is this going to work out? The deal was getting ready to fall through. I called my mom and she reminded me, you will want for nothing. As I looked at job opportunities and promotions, she reminded me, you will want for nothing. As I started to wonder, well, when will I find my life partner? And my husband is here with me today, Paul Samuels, and she reminded me that you will want for nothing. Why is this important for a child to hear that from their parents, that you will want for nothing? Well, I can tell you why it was important for me, because most of the time, that's not what I heard from everybody else. What I heard from everybody else was, you want to go to Georgetown? You will never get into Georgetown. You will want for nothing. You can't afford a house on Capitol Hill. You will want for nothing. What makes you think you will get that job? You will want for nothing. Hospital CEO, maybe you should think about something else. You will want for nothing. Reverend, look at the life you've lived. You will want for nothing. As parents, we need to make sure that the voices that our children hear outweigh any other voice that they're hearing. That the picture that they see is more vivid and vibrant than any other picture that they're seeing. Because otherwise, that reel that they're playing will be overshadowed if they don't have something that they're hearing from you. So my mom, she was an evangelist, and she would tell wonderful stories. And then when my mother was getting closer to what I would call, you start to think, mom's starting to slow down. It was important for me because I wanted to capture her on video. And so I set up a video in her home. And occasionally when I was over there just having coffee, I would just turn it on. I wanted it to be natural. And we would have conversations. And I had an opportunity to record her on a regular basis. And so that's one of my most valuable possessions, I would say, is just having that. But I remember asking and thinking, and I said, so, Mom, when you're not here to kind of remind me of this, what am I going to do? And there was a song that she talked about, and that song was by Sidewalk Prophets, and I think they are going to gear it up for me just a little bit and let you hear what the words of the song are, and then we'll come back.
Still awake, so I picked up a pen and a page, and I started writing just what I'd say if we were face to face. I'd tell you just what you mean to me, tell you these simple truths. Be strong in the Lord and never give up hope. You're gonna do great things, I already know. God's got his hand on you, so don't live life in fear. Forgive and forget, but don't forget why you're here. Take your time and pray. These are the words I would say.
So the words are, be strong in the Lord. Never give up hope. You're going to do great things. I already know God's got his hands on you, so don't live life in fear. Forgive and forget, but don't forget why you're here. Take your time and pray. These are the words I would say. So after graduation from Georgetown, I was a pre-med student. I thought I was going to be a physician. Little did I know that was my life would be altered. So I'm not a physician, but I get an opportunity to work with many physicians, many employees, thousands of employees who actually provide the care. Many times we box ourselves in and we say that there's only one way and only one path, and we know that that's not true. That many times through life, and I know that, we say the shortest in a distance, the shortest distance between 2 points, of course, is a straight line. But in life, we have many dips and turns and pitfalls. And so I did get the opportunity to do what I consider my life mission. I was a Brownie. I was a Girl Scout for many years. All of my brothers were Scouts. My nephew is an Eagle Scout. We were a scouting family. And so if you were a Girl Scout, on my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. Are there any Scouts in the room? Okay, good. So I like it. I will do my best to be honest, to be fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and what I do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, and make the world a better place, and to be a sister to every other Girl Scout. See, the condition of our foundation dictates much about our process. I have 3 brothers. When I was young, I was not nearly as polished as I am now. I had 3 brothers. I had no sisters. I was quite the tomboy. Anything the boys did, I wanted to do. At some point, my mother got a little concerned about it, and so she decided that I needed some buffing up, and so she decided I needed to go to charm school. I don't even know if those still exist, but back in the day, there were things called charm school. So she took me, we interviewed, and this tall, gorgeous woman came out, and she said, I can work with her. And so she did. She taught me how to walk and talk and act like a regular lady. My mother never knew that my charm school teacher was a drag queen. It was always an inside joke with my brothers and I. So I like to say that everything that I know about being a woman, I learned from a man. So I graduated from charm school. Evangelist Addo would have had just a problem with that. So rough, tough, used to run with the boys. I could hold my own. I didn't see it as competitive. I just thought this was the way of life. In my house, it was whoever got to the table first got the breast. If you were late, you got the wing. So I liked the breast, so the boys and I, this was the way that we rolled. I hung out with my brothers, so whether we swam, whether we hiked, whether we ran, it was all of us. They were my posse. And so when we would go out, I honestly never remember my mother saying to my brothers, slow down for your sister. I remember her saying to me, keep up with the boys. So now I'm a CEO in healthcare, and I'm trying to keep up with the boys. Let me tell you a little bit about the statistics in healthcare. Less than 19% of CEOs in healthcare are women. Yet 80% when you go into the field of healthcare are women. So something happens as you go up the ladder in healthcare that weeds out women. Less than 19% are women in healthcare. CEOs. Less than 9% of CEOs in healthcare are minority of any kind. And then when you say an African American woman as a hospital CEO, it's single digits. So why is that? And people ask me, so what's the difference? Is there something different? What did you do? What did you say? What's the secret to your success? I don't know that I know the secret, but I can tell you this. As I said, what do you hear? For me, what did I hear? The words of a mother. What do you say? For me, what did I say? A scout's promise. who do you surround yourself with? For me, it was 3 brothers who did not accept an unequal effort. So what do? There's a phrase, of course, that says, but seek ye first and all these things will be added to you. And sometimes we like to skip the process. We don't want to do any of the seeking, whatever seeking might be for you. So whether it's education, whether experience, whether time, whether it's the Word of God, all of these things will be added, but we've got to do the seeking first. So why do you do what you do? What gets you up in the morning? What is that thing? For me, it's life of service. Our promise for Inova is we seek every opportunity to meet the unique needs of each person we are privileged to serve every time, every touch. What is yours? And then your lasting legacy, what will it be? Does it make a difference? I told you I'm a builder. Whether it was Hagerstown, Mount Vernon, or Loudoun, I'm a builder. But more than bricks and mortar, it's more than that. Because many times, yes, in the nation's capital, in 2019, in many forums, I am still the only one. There are many times I walk into a room and I am still the only one. And so what I want to say to you, whether it's the only woman or man, young or old, any of those things, but let's think also Christian. If you are the only one, many times there's a responsibility that goes along with it. Because I think about it and I say, just maybe, being the only one in the room, you are allowed to speak for those who may never make it to the room. Maybe you were placed in the room for exactly that purpose. And sometimes we get to the room and we stop doing the things that helped us get to the room because we're afraid we might be asked to leave, afraid we might get kicked out. And so what got us into the room, we think we shouldn't do anymore. I can say unapologetically, I'm a CEO, I'm the president of the hospital, and I'm a Christian. And because of that, the next person who comes behind me won't have the struggle that I had when they're in the room. Many times we're opening the door, we're setting the table for so many people who are going to come behind us. So you might ask, well, have you and God always been like this? Absolutely not. I was raised in a Christian home and I couldn't wait to get out. Couldn't wait to get out. It was like, I was raised in D.C., got accepted into Georgetown, and for some reason my parents thought, oh, you could live at home, and I thought, oh, no. This will not work. And so, yes, I left home, left the church, and after graduation, you start experiencing all of those things of whatever the trappings of success, so jobs, promotions, friends, material things. The more successful I became, the more distant from God I became. It wasn't purposeful, it wasn't deliberate, it just happened. I had people to see, places to go, things to do, and so church, God didn't necessarily fit in with all of that. And I had gone to the right school, I knew the right people, so I'm doing what I need to do with my life. Sticking with our building theme, though, I'd say unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain. And then a little before 9 o'clock, on a clear day in September, my assistant knocked on my office door to interrupt my meeting, and she said a plane had just crashed into the World Trade Center. I was in Hagerstown, Maryland. We are the hospital for Camp David. Our CEO was out of the country. I was in charge. We were getting the phone calls from every place. We were preparing ourselves and readying ourselves because we didn't know what would happen next. But my team had drilled for this over and over again, the inevitable, what happens next. And I realized as I was sitting in that meeting with my team and said, you've trained for this, we're ready for this, we are ready for whatever happens next. And there was a conviction in me that said, But Deborah, are you ready for what happens next? And I realized that the answer to that question for me was, I don't think so. I walked into a church that Sunday right after 9/11. I had not been in a church in a long time, and my life was changed forever. You know, you might say, well, you've had somebody speaking things over your life, and so that's what happens. That's why maybe you find yourself in this position, and you might be here today, and you don't have those kind of people who've spoken over your life. There's the psalm that most people know. It's kind of the 23rd Psalm, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In essence, it is saying you will want for nothing if the Lord's your shepherd. So even if nobody else spoke those words over your life, you can speak those over your own life. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You will want for nothing. So we're afraid sometimes. We walk around in fear. We're afraid of failure. And everybody's going to fail. We're all going to fail. So after you've gotten over that, everybody's going to fail. Now, okay, failure is not a definition, right? Failure is an event. It's not a characteristic. We will move on. So when you think about that and you say, well, okay, so I do have this being spoken over my life, then I think we can walk in what I would call victory. I was at lunch with a couple of executives a couple of days ago, and we were having a conversation, and he told me something that he's working on. And then he looked at me and he said, and this is a game changer, a game changer. And it's kind of funny to me because we use like big words for insignificant things. We used awesome, we used magnificent, we used game changer for insignificant things. And so, and I was thinking about this morning and I thought, awesome, magnificent, game changer. A relationship with Christ is just that, really a game changer. So your industry is known for buying and selling, and what I'm talking about this morning actually is free. You can't buy it, right? But it is worth more than you could ever think. Now, in the hospital, we have, of course, every hospital has a chapel. And in our chapel, one of the things that I have in there is a book. Chapel is open 24/7. People come in at any time. They share their thoughts when nobody else is looking, when nobody else is around. Occasionally, I will go in, and I have many, many books that people have filled in all languages that many I can't even read, but they're in the room along with their thoughts, having this conversation. And so I thought I'd share a few of those with you this morning. There was one that someone said, and I could pick any page, so there's one that somebody said. Let's find one. She says, "Dear Father in heaven, thank you very much for loving me and protecting my family. Help me find out the reason I am ill and help me to heal. Lead me to find the right doctors and make the right choices that will help me feel well and be healthy again. I am so scared, and I don't know what's wrong with me and why I'm having all of these symptoms. Please help me." There was someone else who wrote, "I kneel down and I ask you to please lay your hands upon my mom. She's been through so much lately. I realize that she will never completely recover because of her Alzheimer's, but I do ask that you help slow down the process because I still want her to know us and to recognize us. We are broken. We don't know what to do. We're not prepared to deal with this. Help us." There's someone else who said, "Thank you for the many blessings. Thank you for protecting us for everything that we have. I need you to help my daughter. Her thoughts are jumbled up. and she is mentally ill. I'm afraid that she will hurt herself or hurt others. Help us. There's another that says, God, help us. Our family is broken. We have generational curses, and we are dysfunctional. Help us. And you might think, well, all of them are that serious and deep, but some are not. Here's one that said, God, Grandma just died. While we are sad, I hope in heaven she has a big house and a never-ending bottle of scotch. When we aren't looking, those are the things that people are thinking about in my industry. So you might think in your industry, well, we buy, we sell, people come in, because many times in the hospital it's not a happy occasion. Maybe if you're coming in to have a baby, maybe if you know that finally we've come up with a solution for your problem and your issue, and so it might be a happy occasion, but most of the time it's anxiety producing. And then you think in your industry, in real estate, so is it a happy occasion? Many times it is. It might be the first house. It might be the vacation home. It might be we've worked hard and now we get to move up. So those are the happy occasions. But there's also that other story about somebody buying or selling a house. It might be that mom died and we have to clear out the house and sell it. It might be the person that I thought I was going to spend my life with is no longer with me, and I need to sell the house. It might be something so horrific happened in this house and we can't live here anymore, and I need to sell it. And you all have the opportunity as realtors and as brokers to be there in those situations and to be equipped for whatever that person might need. So when you think about that, you think about all that you bring to the table and all that you have to offer. So there's an old song that's called, if you go to the contemporary church, or the traditional church, right? There's a song called My Hope is Built on Nothing Less Than Jesus' Blood and Righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. What is the condition of your foundation? Thank you this morning.